It is 1:01 p.m. and let's continue to discuss where we are with the budget. And we'll have this work session and our next work session, I believe, is Tuesday morning. Is it Tuesday morning at 9:00? Right? Okay.
It starts, I think it's all day again Tuesday, isn't it?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yes, it is.
Really?
9 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay, so
stay
next Tuesday,
tuned.
so Tuesday will be 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. But first, what I'd like to do is wish our esteemed colleague, Commissioner Wance, a very happy 42nd anniversary. I think he married about 27 levels up to where he had been, or
Thank
maybe
you.
28 or 30. But a
you,
beautiful
Ed.
picture of the commissioner and the newest grant, along with the three others.
Thank you, Ed.
So
I appreciate
absolutely. And very happy anniversary to Kathy and you.
that. Yeah, 42 years ago today, I was saying, what in the world am I doing?
I thought that's what Kathy said.
And she was saying that too.
And I think I think your parents also told Kathy no givebacks.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why it's been 42 years. Okay,
Thank you very much.
absolutely. So where we left off was we were talking about the money that we have on hand regarding the unassigned fund balance, along with the hard to get money, which is called what again? The hard to get.
The stabilization. fund?
Stabilization fund, thanks. So we left it off with the unassigned fund balance and how to potentially break that up, along with the stabilization fund.
Okay, well, stabilization fund really isn't part of this conversation.
No, I know, but we addressed it. That's all I'm saying, is that it was addressed. So regarding the unassigned fund balance, Ted, you shared with us your recommendation in taking that money and breaking it into a certain percentage to push off to the side and then make available to us the other portion. So the other portion is that 27.614 million. Is that
I don't remember the exact number, but it sounds like.
okay? So it's the 27.6. It all came from here. Actually, it's 27.614 million. And now the question that we need to start having the conversation is how to use that 27.614 for independent projects, one-time funded projects, along with our ongoing, funds. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the one-time funded projects?
Well, we threw all that stuff up on a scenario builder. Are we just going to leave it?
No.
Not going to talk about what we plan to do with that?
No, I'm just scared that we're not going to get to the, no, I'm just scared that we're not going to get to the other portion. And we're going to be like, okay, we ran out of money and all of a sudden,
Well,
these
I mean,
things
if
that
you
we.
guys want to go to one time,
I don't
I'm
know.
okay with that, but I think,
I'm open.
then that blows option B out of the water if we go right to.
yeah, I mean, we put the
How much-
scenario builder up there, I thought that, so we could hash it over and see what we're going to do about it.
So I would
Okay.
suggest
Okay.
that that we go back to that.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
Scenario builder.
And we go back to the SB.
The second best.
Yeah, and see about spreading out something here in an attempt to try to get that bottom line a little bit better. But maybe there needs to be some more dialogue about some of these items.
The sheriff's, going back to the sheriff, and I know you can't do a split screen. The one I just saw was the 6%. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 6%. What's the recommendation, Ted? Should we be looking at FY27 or FY22? More attention towards FY22 or FY27 at this point? And don't say both and don't say it's complicated. Just, give me one or the other.
Okay, well, of course, we have to balance fiscal year 22, but you say, what's the important thing to do? I'd say 27, because that's where you determine, are we making sustainable decisions?
And that's fine. I'm just asking because, you know, if I want to be able to focus on one, you know, number. So I'm looking at $25.42 million. And that is with the sheriff's department right now getting the 6%, no, 10% salary increase in total. And the 20% salary increase total is $29.436 million, which is significant,
So
you know?
I'm still hung up on the fact that everything that we're doing here is directly related to compensation.
Right.
Except for the BOE request.
Right, the
which we have
elections.
no idea, really, what that means for them to be asking for what. And they asked it, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dick, they asked for it in the way of saying, we believe we deserve to get what was in there prior to the pandemic. Is that the way that it was presented?
Yeah, they had the 6.2, I think, increase this year. And they went back and asked for the 5 million that was last year that we flatlined last year's budget, basically. And they were asking for that additional to the 6.2. And when we met with them, they asked to, you know, they have uses for it, but.
But
I don't think it's salary as such either.
okay, so if then I would suggest that not knowing that, I'm having a little trouble with that entire amount of 5.1 million. Just based on the fact that we deserve to get it, and we're not sure where it's going to be assigned to. If it could be guaranteed salary, I'd be all in, but it's not. I don't, and we can't dictate that. So while what is the increase that they are realizing in the 22 proposed budget? CCPS.
Whatever they get from you, because state funding is flat.
No. What is that figure? What did we put an increase in?
Right, it's a 3.13%, about $6 million.
So they're getting an additional 6 million.
6.2.
6 million this year.
Right.
And they're asking for
And
the
it goes
additional
up,
5.
it goes up in each of the following years as well.
Yes.
Right.
And that continues at the 3.13 until the last 2 years, where we have it at 3%, which is another thing they asked of you, to change those last 2 years to also be 3.13 instead of
Right.
3.
I'll have to say, I'll say here what I told Dr. Lockhart and, I guess, was Mr. O'Neill,
John,
when he came in, what's in the budget is, I think, what you should get. It's already a $6.2 million increase from the year before. At this time with the COVID and everything, with people, you know, out of work and unemployment and everything else that's skyrocketing prices, be happy with it. And if you look at our bottom line, I think that's the best we can expect. I don't see why getting $6.2 million more is not a good thing. So if you want to start with the Board of Ed, my opinion, take that off. Of course, what I'm saying now, I'm also thinking the sheriff's department ask is
I know.
way too much.
so if
So we
we,
could cut
yeah,
that down
I know.
to, like I said, double the 4% to 8%. And again, look at what's going on around the county, look what's going on around the country. Who wouldn't be happy with an 8% increase, especially when they, in 2019, they got a 9% increase, actually 3 times the amount of anybody else in this county got a 9% pay increase. And now they're asking for basically a 25% pay increase on top of that. That's unrealistic. So my recommendation, take the Board of Ed off the I forgot what I called that thing. Scenario builder, here you go.
Just go with the acronyms, SB. Just don't put the O in the middle.
Cut the sheriffs down to a 4% additional over what they have. I mean, come on, look what's going on out there. You gotta be realistic in this time. And I say that with saying, would I like to give people what they're asking? Of course I would. And if people, and I have to say, we're not coming back here again until Tuesday. Text me, email me. If you're willing to go with a tax increase and make these things happen, let me know. I'll put it out there. But if you're not, and my understanding is who is, then it's not going to go out there. But if you're willing to go with that, let me know. Email me, email the other commissioners. Yes, we will take that tax increase. If you're not, I'm okay with that too. But if we're not, and right now we're not looking at that, take the Board of Ed off the table, cut the sheriffs down to additional 4%, which is, like I said, an 8% raise at this time. Anyone else getting that? Just my thoughts.
Very animated thoughts too.
It was a tough lunch.
Commissioner Frazier, would you happen to know how many students have left the county educational system?
780.
Yep.
That's
So they have less students to educate. Now, as far as the citizens, that means those citizens out there are paying out of pocket for the education of their own students. So they've taken on an individual expense to educate their children and take the stress off the county.
Yeah, but is that 780 gone to homeschool, or is that 780 that have
Well, it's-
left the system, or is it a
It's left the
combination?
system. It's both. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of them are homeschooled, a lot of them went to private schools.
Right,
And the thinking is, most of the students who went to homeschool will be back
will come
next
back,
year.
right.
When school's back fully, and I don't know if it will be, but let's say school's back 5 days a week and so forth. Most of those homeschool students will be back in Carroll County Public Schools.
Right.
Whether that comes about or not, I don't know. But it's also thinking that the students that went to the private schools that are happy at the private schools, and my understanding is, what I've been told, they're probably staying at the private schools.
The more private.
No data to back that up. Just saying it, putting that out there, just stories.
Mhm.
But the point I'm making is the more of our citizens take on the expense of educating their children out of their own pockets, less stress they have put on our educational system.
So because we're in unprecedented times here, what if we went back to something that was suggested earlier before lunch, where we try to meet these folks in a halfway sort of
Right,
process, which means that, again, as I said many times, all get some.
right.
So if that's the case, then I would be willing to put 2 million or 2.5
Mhm.
to CCPS, and the sheriff's office would be more than willing to do 2.25, whatever that gets.
The 50%, the half, yeah.
And that might get a
Right.
little bit more than
Right.
8%. That
Right.
might get them to 9 or 10%, but
We'll give them to like 12%. in my
well,
calculations.
then
I,
there's a common theme,
Yep.
which doesn't get us into this mode of, well, you gave them that, why didn't you?
right,
Regardless of how the percentages, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I can assure you, Dennis, that at some point in my 32-year career as a firefighter, if I was presented with the fact that I was getting more
Mhm.
than a 10% or 8% increase, I'd be on the moon right now.
Right.
I'd be over the moon.
When did you ever get a 10% increase?
I never.
Right,
So I understand trying to get the basics up and getting those incredibly valuable folks up to where they should be.
Mhm.
But I think the understanding here has got to be, and on your point, Dennis, I did talk with some of my constituents over lunch. And when I presented to them that we were trying to phase this in and get them to a degree of getting in some middle ground there, they said that's without tax increases, that's something that we would certainly support. Now, that's only a small fraction of people, but
Right.
I did try to get a sampling. So if that is something that we could do, then where does that put us
right there. That's half of Board of Ed, half of Sheriff's Department. It would get us to 23.4 million.
Right. So now so now what we've done is we've taken this all get some mode here. And we've got $21 million, right, of monies. Correct,
Right.
Deb? I can't,
Correct.
too many numbers in my head.
27.
Okay, more than what we thought. So then
Get excited.
I'm not getting excited. So if you put 2 million. Ted, yes.
You're gonna drive me
Ted,
crazy.
If you'd like to leave the room at this time, please feel
You're-
free.
This is right where we were.
2 million there, 2 million in 23,
It's gonna get you.
8 million in 24. Stop it, Fraser.
12 million.
And then I'm just trying, I'm just trying here. So work with me.
28.
No.
Get it to 20 million. Get
Get
it to 20 million,
You got
Deb.
15 million left. I mean,
No, you got more than that left.
no,
Not far.
27 million total
Oh,
is what we have.
yeah, right.
And
And we're at
it-
12.
it's not,
Okay, so if you get it to 20, then we've got $7 million to work with for some of these one-time capital projects or infrastructure projects that we'd like to give. Full well knowing that that doesn't do a whole lot to that bottom line. I understand that. But at least we're good through 25 in the anticipation that, I don't know.
But yeah,
I just don't think it does anything.
I'm
you know,
just-
if all we had to go is 25, I'm all behind you. But look at this next 2 years.
I understand that.
We don't, there's no, that money, where's that gonna come in? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money this next 2 years.
I mean, the way I'm looking at this right now, unfortunately, it just makes it look good, but it doesn't fix the problem. And I rather not look so good and focus on fixing the problem and putting it out there that we are going to be in the red and not just pushing money down the road, because I do believe that Cliff is going to get significantly higher. And that
But
bothers me.
okay. And
And I'd rather have more money for capital projects.
then 7 mil.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I know.
because this,
Although we can do some things with 7 mil.
say again?
I mean, there's plenty of things we can
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
I mean, we can do some of the things that all 5 of us have suggested.
I mean, even though what you said, we're still almost $5 million short in FY 25.
I know that.
I mean, and then look at the 19 to 23 million. That's astronomical amount of money.
I know.
For a county, maybe for the state, it's not much, but for us, it's a tremendous amount of money. I have no concept of where that's coming from.
See, honestly, if I was doing the math you were just doing, I would look at FY 22, get to where we are, and take all the rest of that money and put it all the way out to 27.
Okay. Well,
You know what I mean?
I gave you a starting point.
No, but it's just another way of looking
So
at it.
go.
If Ted tells me to look at 27 as my focus, then that's where I want to look.
But you got all those years in between.
I know.
Better come up quicker. I understand what you're saying, but
I just don't think, I don't know.
But we do know that we're
I
going to
don't
be
want
in the
that
red.
anything.
We do know that we're going to be in the red.
Yes.
It's just how much are we in the red? That's what the problem is here. I mean, we could take the whole 27 million
Wouldn't get us much further.
and wouldn't get us much further. Thank you. Commissioner.
Other
You're
programs.
right. I know, you're right.
I mean, the extra 7 million is gonna take us
I know.
a little, in
We-
26, and we're still,
Other programs we talked about that we took away right now. AgPres was one of them. What were other programs we talked about?
the difference in storm solid waste.
So now you're doing it. See what you started?
Yes.
with the
Those are the
stormwater.
only two things.
That's right. It's a tough one. Stormwater, solid
know.
waste. Those were the only two.
So if we put those back in,
Yeah.
is that what you're suggesting,
Yeah.
Dennis?
No, I'm just saying.
That's what I was
we talked about.
suggesting.
If
we-
27.
If we put those two back in, what would it look like?
All the solid waste, I don't think you have something to put back in. Because remember, what we showed you was after you consider all the other things that would have to happen, it's a net negative to you in the last 3 years.
Right, because of the money you would take to open up the next cell,
Right,
Unless you use all the cash to,
unless you had some
To
one-time money
build.
into that.
which we could do,
you could,
use one-time cash.
right? But is that what you're gonna do?
And that leachate thing on the first year, doesn't make any sense to me.
That may
It's
be
the
a
same
better way
size
of doing
cell.
it.
But we have to go into that.
Is the federal money mandated?
No,
Could it
we're-
be
we're
used
not-
for-
we don't have it all
that
in.
yet. Could it be?
It's not all uncovered.
We'd have to ask,
There are an additional 8 acres of cell-free
Okay.
that we have.
That had not been.
we'd have to ask.
I'm thinking the same size cell with it was made for, it's got 3 years or so.
We were just making it up.
Somewhere.
Roberta,
Eric?
the $32 million coming from the feds, one of the categories is infrastructure, water, sewer, broadband. It does not specifically call out roads, but it's focused, the key word to me was, the infrastructure. It may be worth asking, how broad that category can be when we talk about infrastructure, because the intent, I believe, in putting money towards infrastructure is because we've pulled money away from infrastructure in dealing with the pandemic. So it may be worth asking Sarah Corns or somebody's office about
Well,
it.
Were you finished? I'm sorry. The U.S. Treasury is writing those regulations. Even as of this morning, we received an email saying they still aren't done. We don't know what all the details will be. As you said, they specifically mentioned water, sewer, and broadband when they mentioned infrastructure, and that's all the detail we have at this point.
Right.
We have asked, that NACO represents us, of course, in this matter, and we have asked those kinds of questions, but we have not received. No, and this is across the United States. It's not just Carroll County government.
Right.
Has not received
Right.
any information on.
Yeah, I just think it's worth pursuing kind of what you just shared. And because all the other categories of the money being used are directly related to COVID-19. Infrastructure, broadband, water, sewer are not necessarily directly associated with COVID-19, but the assumption is that money was moved from there to deal with the pandemic some other place. So that may build the argument that yes, landfill roads can be added into the infrastructure. We just need to find out.
Debbie Sanford is checking this every day, probably multiple times a day, waiting to get the regs, and they're not out there yet.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, I want to put that in the front,
It'd be nice if we could get those before May the 1st, wouldn't it?
It would be really nice.
If that money were to come into 32 million and we could put it into the areas we're looking at right now, could we take other designated areas in our future budgets, remove them, let it be replaced with that, and use that money elsewhere?
Well, we can't answer that yet without more detail.
Until we-
But generally speaking, when we get money like this, you can't use it to offset money that you were going to spend already.
No, but this would be, you can't use it for roads?
No, you can. It's just,
So we take some out of the 25-6 budget for roads, use this money, that would give us a better bottom line on 6 and 7.
Well, it's possible. We don't know that you can't yet. I'm just saying, generally speaking, money like this comes with, you cannot supplant other funding with this. We want you to do something you weren't going to do.
and that's why, like Commissioner Wentz just said, it'd be really nice if this comes before we
Yes.
finish this, because this is all work in progress. So there's nothing.
But if we reduce those funds now, to offset our budget, and we get this other funds,
Right.
oh, we're just,
Oh,
doing.
no, I
We don't
understand.
even know how we can use them yet.
We just don't know how to use them yet. We
Yeah,
don't
it could
have
be
the
a
guidance.
total guessing game. And this is often a problem when we have money coming like this, you know, a law will get passed that says, we're gonna do this.
Right.
But when you say, well, what does that mean? Nobody knows the answer to that question. We need the regs written to do that. And their timing is not our timing.
Right.
And, you know, in the Great Recession, and this is just on how it's hard to match up the federal thinking with ours sometimes. They put a lot of money out for infrastructure, but they said it has to be for shovel-ready projects. That's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how things work. We will never have a shovel-ready project that can accept money that can't supplant other funding, because we're not going to be shovel-ready unless we've already identified funding. But that's the kind of stuff we run up against. And we can't really decide, even in a general way, what we want to do with that money until we see what is possible to do with it. You know, doing something with broadband seems like a very likely choice for us to make, but we need to find out, you know, what does it mean? What can you do?
Right.
Well, hopefully it means we can put wires in the ground, because I think that, I don't know what else they would want to do with the
Exactly.
broadband money. And the importance of residential has got to be on there. The
Yeah, because
businesses,
the impact
with all
of
due
schools-
respect, the businesses can fend for
Right.
themselves,
Mhm.
because they can fund that kind of thing. Residents can't. So I would hope that the emphasis is on residential when these things come down.
I would think so, because the recognition that the broadband challenges when it came to the school situation
Right.
across the country.
Right.
Um,
And the work from home stuff.
yeah, the water sewer is interesting. That's thrown in there specifically, but I'd be curious about roads and other infrastructure. But
We're all very curious.
yeah, no, I get you.
Knowing that's coming, and we're carrying jello in our hands here, trying to deal with this,
On a gravel road.
on a
carrying
gravel
Joe.
road, yeah.
Warm jello.
You know, we do a budget here, that money hopefully will come sometime whenever, May, June, whatever. Do we open the budget back up at that time to deal with that money?
I don't think we would. We probably would take it as grants and put it in grant fund, which doesn't
Right.
require you to go through the whole process
Right.
of a new budget.
It would just be added one-time funds for X.
Just like
Projects.
just like last year when you got
Yeah.
the almost 15 million for the CRF.
Right.
We didn't open the budget and then it just went into the grant funds and then we spent it.
And the difference with this grant money is we will have 2 years to use this as opposed to 8 months. But
3.
3.5 years? Right, 2024, yeah, 2024. Right.
Well, see, that fixes
Yeah.
it all. We're good.
We're halfway there. So, so if we're to go and continue in the line of thinking of Commissioner Wance, we have $7 million for capital projects. What capital projects are we talking about? I know you want to stay on this until everything's done, but
No,
I'm just kind of thinking through.
We're not, I mean, we got a long ways to go here. That's one
Yeah.
thing. So I think I would suggest we could do that. I mean, let's look and see. We're gonna, listen.
I wanna feel good
We're
about
gonna have to
something.
come back. We're gonna have to come back and look at all this.
I know.
That's the thing. This is just,
Yeah.
There's too many.
I mean, I was just throwing
There
stuff
are.
out. That's,
No,
all.
I
You
agree.
know,
But like I said,
So-
I just want to feel good about some of these projects that we have been going on for quite some time.
I think you have two big categories when you start talking about capital projects.
Okay,
One would be putting money to renew existing infrastructure,
okay,
take care of something we already have.
Yep.
The other would be creating infrastructure. Now,
Yep.
there are things we're talking about, like a law enforcement headquarters,
Yep.
new infrastructure. There's, not that there couldn't be others, but there are 3 roads we've talked about, Ride
Right.
Narrow in Georgetown, creating new infrastructure. Arguments to be made both ways. Now, one thing about renewing existing infrastructure, that doesn't bring any new costs with it. We create infrastructure, and we also need to recognize there are new ongoing costs that come
Yep.
along with that.
Mhm.
So you're getting something, but in another way, you're making your problem even harder.
Okay.
What was the figure for, did we write it? I don't know. We got the figure that they gave us on Tuesday for the first phase of those gravel roads. Was it 1.8?
Was it 1.1 or 1.2?
You remember, Roberta? I can't
I
remember.
feel like it was like,
Yeah. It was over 1 million, but I want to say 1.2.
I thought it was like
1.5.
1.5.
Okay. Well, that was in the middle of what we
Yeah.
were thinking. So,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if we're going to go down some of these lists, I mean, we have always provided funding for self-contained breathing apparatus for a volunteer fire.
Right,
So, I mean, I would think that's a must.
I agree.
You got to have those things.
Hate to
We've
agree
done it
with you,
for
but-
everybody else. And this, I think, is one of the last. And then we're going to be okay, I think, for another, I don't know how many years it is.
Yep.
Here's my fire. We're good for a while, I think, then.
I don't know the top of my head, but I'm fairly certain it's 3 to 4 years, maybe 5,
Right.
but they are the last one.
Okay. So I would suggest that would.
Where was that? Oh, that's on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we buy them anyway. Either it's a
Right.
cost share or something.
And I believe in that dialogue, didn't they say, Taylor, that they were still trying to get grants for it? So that might not even be in play. We might be able to pull that back.
And that figure actually is a little bit lower than what you've seen previously as well, because you asking funding for public safety is going to take care of the hazmat concern.
Right.
So there used to be 2 requests, now it's just the one for the
Got it.
station.
Okay. Well, there's one. And then you all know how I feel about the gravel roads. I mean, we've got an opportunity here.
I think it's worthwhile investment to put that 1.5 million into the first 20 gravel roads.
It's pretty scary.
Okay, when you say good investment, what,
Because
It's the right
I have
thing
to
to
say,
do.
since we've been on board, we've tried to get gravel roads less and less and less, get them down a little bit. I like the idea of taking that double chip seal, putting it on a gravel road rather than having a gravel road. From what we saw in the presentation, stabilization is much better. Yes, maintenance will go up on that eventually, but I just think it's a good step to the future.
okay, yeah, and I'm not arguing that point at all. I just want to make sure I understood when you said good
Right.
investment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what you meant.
Into the county.
Because there has been an idea sometimes that this would be less expensive for the county, and it won't be.
No, I'm not saying it will be. I just think
Although-
it's a step in the right direction.
Although I would
Less
argue
maintenance.
that it could at some point be less expensive because you're not going to have to buy all the cinders that you had to buy versus the salt. Because now you can put salt on the double chip seal, can't you? Not
Yes.
cinders. So you're going to save a little bit there. You're going to save the maintenance that they go up there at least 2, 3, 4 times a year with that huge grader and do stuff that's just, well, I'm not sure what they do because once they do it, my phone starts to ring. So it's not going to be a wash. I understand, Ted, but I do think you'll see some savings as a result of it.
Right, you will save certain costs, but you pick up other costs. And if you
Okay.
go back to the numbers they presented, you see it's not even close.
Right.
And this is not arguing against changing the roads. I just don't want there to be an idea that we're doing it because it's a fiscally good idea. We're
No.
doing it because we think it's a good idea to do it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And, no,
If
go
I-
ahead.
I just want to add that our taxpayers that live on gravel roads are paying the same tax rates as people on the asphalt roads. And the people that live on the asphalt roads are getting the maintenance upkept on their paved roads. And our citizens that live on their gravel roads deserve just as much attention to their roads. And I think this would be a nice compromise, help stabilize their roads. They're not second-class citizens and their roads are just as
Yep, I agree with that. Plus, they're
Yeah.
going to probably save some of the tax dollars on their car washes. I'm not sure about that. One would assume.
Work chips. No,
and
and-
tires and brakes, all that stuff.
I mean, you know how I think how I feel about it, it's the right thing to do. And we should put our dollars into this. So, but I also want to see the priority list of broadband, and that's not up there.
No, it's not, but I'm encouraged by that federal funding, Ed, because
Well,
listen, you heard me bark about it on priorities. It's unacceptable to me that we've got
I
people
agree.
that can't get on the internet. But honestly, I know that we've put in for grants,
Mhm.
and I know that some of that's coming down the pike.
Mhm.
Or in this instance, coming down some of the gravel roads. But do we really truly have an idea of what the cost would be to get to some of these more rural areas? That's the issue.
with broadband?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we put an investment to do a study. The study is supposedly done.
it
We
is.
should have the priority list of where we are with the broadband requirements for Carroll County. And just like we got the briefing on gravel roads, they did a great job. It was very clear that these are the roads, this is the cost, got it. We should have the exact same approach with broadband and figure out how to put the dollars necessary to at least move forward. Don't we have this study?
Yeah, we do. We got that, didn't we?
No.
I thought
Um,
we got that.
the staff has received it. They've, 2 weeks ago,
No.
and they'll be presenting it to you next Thursday.
When?
Thursday.
Right
Oh,
after the
right.
budget.
So, no, so again, and this is in absolutely no way am I dissing Mark or the staff whatsoever, but I think that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing
Right.
because just like gravel roads, this is about the county and I want to see broadband put in place.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Getting back to the gravel roads for a minute, I do have a question. They presented us with a 3-year plan.
3 year, yep.
So if we do that, we've already whacked out year 2 and 3, right? Or not? We
What do
got
you mean?
7 million yet. No, that's right. This is different. I'm sorry.
This would only
Well,
be the first
Yeah,
phase.
we just said the first year,
This would only
so
be the
far.
first
Okay,
phase,
okay,
which is 1.5.
right? 20 roads or whatever
right,
it is.
okay.
20 miles, whatever. I can't remember what it was.
And then we all agreed that the fire department,
Yeah, and that's just a small amount,
yeah,
but
well,
I truly do think, I mean, this happened remember with New Windsor back in 2015, I guess? They put in for that SCBA and the feds came in and gave us the whole grant.
that's great.
Because, what's his name was in New Windsor, Senator Van Hollen.
Yeah, and Gamber put in, and we had to fund half of it. They get a grant then for the whole thing?
That was recent. Wasn't that in 2018?
I think
Yeah,
The first year I was here, we did.
Yeah, I mean,
some.
yeah, a lot of times they put in for it and they don't need it, but
Yeah.
they do it now at
Yeah.
the present time.
Right.
Do we have, we still have a placeholder for the Eldersburg station, correct?
That is still in the CIP, yes.
If we were to take that either out or, I know you don't like hearing pushing it to the right, but taking it off the table, focusing our attention on the requirements that the sheriff has for a capital project that really has to do with space, along with a better marketing down there in Eldersburg, in the current location on 26. So in other words, signage and things like that. The space has been identified up at North Carroll High School. We talked about that. There's different leasing options on how to take that space, either one-time funds for a 10-year or year by year. My recommendation would be, it's less expensive doing it a 10-year lease than year by year. But if the requirement's not there for the Eldersburg station, then let's call a spade and say it's not there. And that's, I've reached out to the sheriff's department and sheriff, And he said, these are the things that I'm more focused on. And that is a strong presence down Eldersburg and space as the body cams and analysts come on board. So let's,
That, while I'm not disagreeing with that, that's capital. We're not there yet, are we?
I don't know.
Well, one.
Sorry.
one-time funds being
Should I?
There will be an operating impact though.
Which is right here.
Now, one, be clear, now you said I don't like moving it out to the right. I just want to make sure everybody understands you're right, but why I'm saying that. If we just say push it out to 28, I would argue this does not change the picture at all. All you've done is make 27 look better, but in 28, you're still going to take on all the same costs you would have. If you're going to say we're pulling it out, then I would argue, yes, that frees up money. But we're talking about significant debt service, and we're talking about 3 positions as well as, costs to heat, cool, and, those kind
So,
of things.
so if we pull it out, because it's not till 2027 and the sheriff believes that not necessarily pulling it out, but pushing it to the right, we can always put it back in to play next year budget or year after as a discussion for an out year requirement.
Yes, I guess the distinction I'm making is just saying it's out and we have no plan to put it in. You can always revisit it
Right.
versus saying we're going to push it out, but we're still going to do it.
Yeah, I think the first is the right sentiment to take it off the table, but as the Board of Commissioners, make a understanding that, yes, we can have that conversation for out years the next time we look at this, but it's not something that's going to be fixed today. I think the requirement is more about physical space in the more immediate needs with the body cams and the analysts, along with they have space down there is to, I want to say clean it up, but make it a more of a presence. That's the requirement. So let's base our decisions on those requirements. Yeah, and I apologize if I jumped the gun on which category this is, but
Well, you really, I mean, you have, but you haven't, because you're right. There's still operating costs that could be removed as a result of taking that project
Yeah.
out. But then we'd have to put operating costs back in if we decide that we would want to build over here.
Yes.
yes.
So
Yeah,
one-
that's
one
that's,
washes the other, I guess. I don't know.
well,
Well, and your operating costs for a new headquarters will be bigger than.
much
than what
bigger.
we're talking about
Yeah,
here.
and that's a much bigger project, and that
Although you can take the personnel cost away.
No, well, we had 3 planned for Eldersburg, is that right?
Yes,
And the sheriff has suggested 4 for headquarters.
Oh. Okay, well,
But we're looking at, I know we made a decision on that, I don't think we did, but other capital issues or one-time requests. I'm looking for, at Carroll Community College, the request for technology, the $1 million. Of course, it doesn't have to be $1 million this year, because I think they either $1 million to spread it out over 3 years, but use it as matching. If they get a donor to come up with some money for technology, they could, when you have the matching like that, that's the way we've done it in the past. It works very beneficial for them. It runs out. I think it runs out this year. They still need to have technology issues. They still need to move forward. It is a community college after all. We use them not only as for 2-year degrees, we use them for training the workforce in Carroll County. So I think it's imperative that they get the money for the technology. Now we could put it down as, I prefer to put it down like a 350,000 a year rather than the 1 million, because then they can get the matching grants and all. Just the way I like to see it. Makes no difference though, however you guys want to do it.
did we take out the Eldersburg station?
No,
Take
did
what?
you want me to?
Yes. I apologize.
They don't want to affect anything on this.
No, we're talking apples and oranges, bananas. You're the banana.
There are some operating costs, so it will affect it to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's
not
what-
not in
that's
the
it.
next couple of years.
Right, 24 beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ted told me to look at 27.
But I
I'm not
thought,
looking
It
at
affects
anything else.
27, so.
but
I'm looking at 27.
I thought that I thought that we were gonna take that out and put that in.
With the centralized,
Yeah,
yeah, we have to have that conversation first before we do anything.
okay, well, I thought one,
It'll impact, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
okay,
So,
okay.
Now, Commissioner Frazier, are you suggesting that we use one-time funds to fund
Yes,
the $1 million?
yes.
But you said you wanted to spread it out?
You want, I just,
Okay,
either way is fine. I think the way that we did it in the past is we spread it over several years.
okay,
That way, it's 3 years taken care of, basically.
right. I know the answer to this. I just want to make sure, I think. The body worn cameras, they're already in here, right?
Sort of.
Okay, maybe I don't know the
What
answer.
what is in the recommendation is 2 people for the state's attorney in fiscal year 22. That's recognizing that municipalities are already using the cameras and it's already having an impact on the state's attorney's office. In fiscal year 25, we have 3 more positions for the state's attorney, 5 positions for the sheriff, and the funding for the body worn cameras. So that doesn't include car mounted cameras. And it doesn't include the additional, I think, 2 positions the state's attorney wants beyond the recommendation and another position that the sheriff wants beyond the recommendation. Now, the reason we only have the body worn cameras in and the reason we have it going in 25 was to meet your obligation under the law.
Right.
So if you want to do it sooner, or you want to do more positions, or you want to do the car mounted cameras, then that's all beyond what's in the recommendation now.
what about this grant that was brought up? That was brought to our attention about getting cameras, which would then accelerate the requirement to get positions.
Right, the grant would cover the cost, potentially cover the cost of body worn and car mounted cameras.
Right.
You would get that next year. So if we get the cameras, presumably all these positions we're talking about will need to be in place as well. So
Right.
instead of adding 8 positions in 25, you would be adding those 8 positions in
In-
22.
Which is what is the recommendation from the sheriff's department and the state's attorney, correct?
Yes.
So you're saying that the grant's going to cover the entire cost of the stuff?
Potentially can cover the entire cost of the body worn cameras along with the car mounted cameras.
That for the next 3 years, we have about $1 million extra that we're gonna have to put in to cover
People,
personnel and
People.
everything else, which we don't have.
but the requirement, so the requirement to do all of this stuff is by 2025, by law, by state. It can be accelerated to 2022 because of the grant and getting the equipment. But in doing that, we're not just going to put the cameras on the shelf. They want to use them.
Right.
So in order to use them, we have to, like you said, get the people. It's going to happen anyway.
Right.
It's a tough one. I mean, it's almost like, again, there's no such thing as a free horse. And this is one of those grants that it comes with a significant tail associated with the teeth.
I talked to a deputy the other day and asked, do you want body cameras or not? Oh, yes, definitely wanted them. Why? He said, because we go into court, I want them to have documentation that I'm doing the right thing.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I can be prosecuted for
Yeah.
doing.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's
that,
My word against theirs. I'm
Right.
like, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't look
Absolutely.
at it from that
Yeah.
point of view.
I think that whole conversation, that ship has sailed. I mean, it's on the governor's desk now, whether or not he signs it or not, we'll see.
By
Oh, it'll
25,
happen.
But my point is, that's why I brought it up. We didn't put in for those people yet.
That's right.
So we got to put in for people, although you said that the cost of the cameras are in here.
The cost of the body worn cameras are in 25.
Oh,
So So if we get,
And what?
And most of the people.
in 25, if we get the cameras in 22, then that money in 25 goes away. I mean, that's,
Right.
open money. But the fact is, if we get the cameras in 22, we've got to put in money for the people. Now, just because the sheriff and the state's attorney want the additional people, can they get by for the first 2 or 3 years with the minimum manning of 2 or 3, as opposed to 4 and 3 or whatever it is?
Yeah, I know. Didn't we talk about that a little bit? Didn't somebody ask
Yeah.
that question?
Yeah, and this was,
Because if the
Last
body
week or 2
cameras
weeks
come
ago?
in, I don't think everybody automatically gets them all put on right away. Wasn't there that discussion that they're gonna phase
Can't remember.
based on training and what
Yeah.
have you? I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
remember that.
I don't
Maybe
remember
I'm,
that part.
No.
okay.
that part I
That
don't
might
I'm
have
not saying
remember.
it didn't happen. I don't remember.
I just know
Maybe I
that,
like it.
I just know that if we get the grant, we get the cameras, you consider that the teeth of the project, the tail is the people, and we would have to accelerate it 3 years, moving into left from 25 to 22. I believe it's the right project. I believe it's, mandatory in 25. If the sheriff believes that this is a requirement, then we should consider putting this in. In
Well, then we're gonna
22.
have to add the people. That's why I
That's
brought it.
right. I know.
Like I said, even if we get the grant, and if we don't get it, we're not getting cameras right now. Let's say we get the grant.
Yep.
And we take the money out of 25 because now we don't need it because we paid for that with the
Right.
grant. It still costs us $1.5 million.
That's correct.
There's no other way to look at that. It still costs us $1.5 million.
Yep.
And on the equipment, when you say we can take it out of 25, just remember, we only budgeted for, or only planned for the body worn
Body worn
cameras.
cameras.
So I don't remember the exact numbers, but we have about 500,000 there.
Right.
It'd be about 1.5 million for the
Right.
whole package.
Right.
Right, that's right. My feeling is we wait to 25 on that. We don't have the money to go right now. I mean, and I have to agree, we have a tremendously well-trained police force out here. We don't have the problems that the other ones do. We never heard that here. So suddenly, because we have the opportunity for grant, we need this right now. Would it be helpful? I'm sure it would be. Is it necessary? I don't think it is. I think the way our sheriff's department interacts with the people in this county, so far it hasn't been a problem. I don't see it suddenly jumping up as a problem. We're still training them. Everything is like top notch. So I don't see the need for it right now.
But the one who has the responsibility to identify the requirement, the sheriff, believes there is and
He said he would like to have them.
would like to have them or wants to have them now as a requirement. My understanding is he believes it's a requirement, and the sooner he gets them on their chest and in the vehicles, the better equipped they are to do the work necessary. And that goes in line with what you
Okay,
said.
but then you're looking at, was this often brought up, what problem are we trying to solve? There's no problem right now. So why are we spending an extra $1.5 million if there's no problem right now? Why are we doing that?
I'm not in a position to say whether there is or not. I would have to ask the sheriff.
We're not going
what's
to
the
court,
problem.
we're not being, you don't see it in the headlines?
I think the
Well-
state's attorney said it very well, everything coming into court is on camera today. And, they need to be able to use that information.
Well, the state's attorney is separate from the sheriff's department. The state's
Well-
attorney, we've already put people in for the body worn cameras that are in the municipalities. That's already taken care of. So it is coming into court like that. We've already taken care of it.
And just a reminder on this conversation, you did give the sheriff your approval to pursue that grant.
Right.
So we're already,
What was the vote on that? I can't remember.
Well, it's, again,
I know, we did it.
it's gonna
We
happen.
did.
It's gonna have to happen now.
No,
Well,
when we made that, as I recall, you said we don't have to accept it.
I know.
I
Wait,
did say that,
You did,
but that was
and I'm
before
going to remind you of that.
thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Frazier.
That's FRA.
But that was really before we knew if it was gonna be mandated or not.
No,
Do
no,
you
no,
not
we,
think
we
so?
knew it was.
It's-
We knew it was gonna be
25,
mandated by
we knew,
25.
Come on.
No, that part we knew, that it was gonna be,
No, we didn't. They didn't pass it till last night.
Yeah,
No, they
we knew
did,
it was
but
coming.
we're in the Mako
Come on.
legislative committee.
I know, but that could have easily been taken out.
It could have,
I would have put a bet on that.
but I doubt it.
Well, I wouldn't bet you with that one.
I'm not holding my
I'd
breath
have
on
lost
this.
that. Again,
I think because we have moved, you know, the ball down the road, whatever the saying is, that we're moving forward with the grant, with the expectation that the grant will be approved, with the expectation that the grant being approved will pay for the body worn cameras and vehicle worn cameras, we should address the requirement for the analyst to be put in place, which ties right back to the space needed, you know, for the sheriff. This is not one or the other. It's a definitely and issue. And the other and is it's going to be a lot of money. But we've got to address it. We can't kick this one down the road. We've already said yes to the grant.
so based on that, I mean, based on what we've got here, the people, the digital records unit is already on here, right? We, FY 22 is 485, 140, 23, 459, 24, 481. And then it goes up, 504, 528, 555. But they add people, they don't start adding people until 25. They get the basic needs that they need, an IT, a coordinator, an IT specialist, and 4 techs in 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
Then they add another coordinator, another specialist, 3 more techs, and a records tech beginning in 25.
Okay. Is he reading what they asked for, Heidi?
What's that?
Am I,
I think he's reading what they asked for.
Yeah, this.
Right. I just want to make sure we're not thinking that that's what's in.
Okay, so in the sheriff's office, what's in 25 would be the unit coordinator, an IT specialist, and 3 records techs. They are requesting an additional records tech.
okay, but what's the 22? Starting in 22, what-
22 would be if you all decided to move it up and
Mhm.
implement their full request in 22, that is what that line is.
okay,
So
okay.
for the
So what is
state,
the cost on that?
for 22,
Yeah, if we decide to move it up.
for the entirety of their request, it's about 485,000. Just for the positions.
For
For
3
So
positions.
that would be 1 unit coordinator, 4 records techs, and an IT specialist,
6 positions.
6 positions.
Okay, and just a reminder, as the recommendation stands, timing aside, we did not put in all the positions that they asked for. We don't have any hard information on how many people will it take to do this. And we did check around the state on counties that have already implemented and some counties that are thinking about this to say, what have you done or what are you thinking about? And we got a pretty wide spread of answers on that. Yeah, there wasn't any consistency to what we found on what are you going to need. So our thinking was, rather than jump immediately to all the positions they're asking for, it'd be good to see some actual experience before we determined
Right.
that that's
But-
needed.
I wonder if the sheriff would be willing to
That's a conversation.
have the conversation of coming down a little bit
Yeah.
on the request of the people.
I think so too. Yeah,
Which could cut that figure almost
Right.
in half,
that's where I was going is, what is,
because we don't,
what's the bare minimum?
unlike other jurisdictions,
Mhm.
we don't have as
Right,
many
going right
folks on the
exactly back
road.
To what you said.
But that maybe is a conversation we should have.
Yeah.
To see what the bare minimum would
Yep.
be, as opposed to the wish list.
I agree. I mean,
Mm,
there's a few things that, we're gonna have to have those conversations, with folks.
Oh, we've done that in the past.
Yeah.
Some of these, we've gotten,
Bring them in.
like we said, we've got a long way to go here, so. there's always things that we need to get.
But what I don't want to do at this point is question the requirement that's been put out there, whether it's a wish list or whatever. To me, it's not a wish, it's the requirement.
Right. I'm only
I'm-
speaking
I
of wish
question the
list.
word requirement, but go ahead.
No, because the one who knows best
What?
is the sheriff. Because it's his requirement. I mean,
Because it's wish, but go ahead.
no, I mean, I'm telling you from my role that I've had, and I've laid out requirements, you gotta base it on the person who's operating X as the requirement. Now, you can have the conversation, okay, with all that said, can you accomplish this with Y and Z?
Less
but-
people.
Until you put it out there, that's a requirement. That's why when I talk about the Eldersburg precinct, I was at no way going to question that requirement until I had that face-to-face conversation with the sheriff, and he told me what the requirements were, and it wasn't the Eldersburg precinct. It was space and a strong presence in Eldersburg that could be met through the existing facility.
There also was some suggestion during that whole conversation that if we waited until 25 to get them, the price would be a lot higher.
That-
That we could inevitably get a better deal now, although I'm not so sure that may not have changed now based on the fact that that bill got passed.
You know, and this idea of,
Up the price.
Yeah, price might have went up.
requirements and the people doing these things, determining what they need. I just want to point out that all the people behind you there spend hours and hours and hours questioning people on the things that they said. Here's
Absolutely.
what we need.
Mhm.
Because sometimes there is room to say, okay, that's not really what I need. That's what I wanted. But we also need to remember, even if everything that's requested of you is the absolute need, if there's not enough money to go around,
Right.
you still have to do something different.
Right.
And absolutely, and I'm absolutely not questioning the ladies behind us in doing the staff work with those that are levying the requirements. I mean, that's due diligence and staff.
But yeah,
So,
I wasn't
Yeah.
suggesting that.
No, I'm
saying
just,
that-
I get you. It's just to revisit it with the operator or revisit it with the leaders, like the sheriff in this case, I think can be valuable to, hey, here are the things we're walking ourselves through that are directly, involved with you.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I guess I just worry a little bit, if the service providers get an idea that if we say this is our requirement, then that's where we
Then we're gonna
are.
lay over and.
Their lives
I
just
get
got a
you.
lot harder.
Right. Right. No, I understand. And it's a good point.
Well, which is why I'm suggesting a conversation needs to be had.
Yeah.
Do you really
Right.
need 6 people?
Right.
Can we do it with 2? And
Conversation needs to be had.
give
We
us-
really need body cameras in 2022.
But he did. He already said that.
You already said need 6 people too, but we're having a conversation about that.
But we approved the grant. We approved him going after the grant. So he,
With the understanding that we would look at how much it would cost us and reevaluate at that time. That's what we approved the grant with. But soon now, it's not, now we forgot that, right?
now we didn't forget that, but there
Well,
was
it
a very,
sounds like it.
there's a very strong assumption that if you're going after a grant, we're going to be willing to support you the best we can.
That's not what we said. We said at the time, if we came in, we evaluate it and see if we really needed it. But now we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, we are.
I just said and asked him if he needs it. She said we already have made that decision.
Well,
So it's one or the other.
we did have the conversation with him and he did say this is what he needs.
Right, and I'm saying we should revisit that. If you're revisiting the number of people he needs, we can revisit this entire question as well.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay. I agree with
And
you.
on the idea of bringing
I got
people in, just want to make sure we're thinking carefully about this. Of course, you can choose to bring in whoever you want, but you will likely have limited time. You bring people in, that eats up a lot of time. And then there's another thing that happens sometimes, somebody gets to come in to defend what they want, but a whole lot of other people don't get to. And, there can be a feeling of, well, how come I don't get to go make my argument now?
Well, I
That's true,
wasn't
too.
suggesting that we bring people in. I don't know that we've ever done that in the 7 years, except for one time when we had a serious dilemma about something, and I can't remember what that was, Roberta, but I know we had to bring somebody in. I was suggesting that we go through our budget analyst and say, hey, the commissioner said, do you really need 6 people? That's what I'm suggesting. I'm not talking about rehashing hearings here. That's me.
But
Because that's exactly right. If we bring the sheriff in, then guess who else wants to come in? Dr. Ball, Dr. Locker, you want to keep going?
2 doctors is enough.
The issue here, we need, I think, stay with the standard in Carroll County. First-class police department, first-class fire and EMS service, first-class education system. These are the 3 pillars that keep this county very strong, and people like the county for those areas. I want a police officer that's equipped with the best technology can. I want an EMT or paramedic, whatever we need at that time, that understands what they're doing and has the best equipment out there to deal with. I want the best educated teachers I can have in the county. I'm sorry, this is what builds the fabric of our community here.
No one's arguing that.
Okay,
Right.
well, that's part of this. I mean, we're building to do that.
Along
Well,
with agriculture, along with a lot of other
Fingers
things.
crossed, if we get the grant.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have shelves of body cameras sitting
right.
somewhere at the quartermaster's
That's right.
area. So that takes care of this discussion.
Okay. Okay, let's move on.
All right, so I just put those numbers up there. I believe that could be the additional cost for what he's requesting versus what is already in, and not including the equipment, because that would make the assumption the equipment is covered by the grant. But you guys, I'm not sure where you landed, whether you want this in or out.
Who you talking to?
You.
Me?
All of you.
Why is FY '24 so?
Because we already have, I mean, it drops because we already have things built in to 24 or 25. It's 22, 23, 24, where we don't have the personnel, a lot of the personnel in. Then
Okay,
we have it budgeted in 25. So
okay,
that really represents what they're asking above what we recommended,
got it.
$250,000. So I guess my question is, does this stay on this line right now, or does it come out?
Stays on the line.
Okay,
I mean, I don't think there's I think you've got an idea, even if we would put a placeholder on it, of who wants to do that. So,
You okay there, Chris?
all right, so that was the last, now,
Last one,
that was the last thing that I had on here, although we still have the North
Capital
Carroll High
projects.
School situation that we
Carroll.
have to do that, but we've been told that we're gonna get something on that on the 15th. So until we can get what that
Well-
is, that's something that probably will have to be added for one time. But,
We need the
but we'd
details.
be shooting in the dark right now, I
Right.
think, because I think they're still working on tweaking the specifics on what that means to us.
I mean, there's a couple of land, deals that are still being looked at. We still have to look at the roads, that were proposed down in the Eldersburg area. We have to look at Charles Carroll, finishing Charles Carroll, right?
Well, that's already in the budget.
Is it done?
Breaks ground this
it's
month.
funded.
Yeah,
It's
It's
already
funded.
funded, everything's
that's
done?
funded, yeah.
It's
Okay.
funded.
Okay,
That was
So-
funded 2 years ago.
no, okay. I just want to make sure things are either in there and or not being pulled out. Is there any, what else?
I don't know. I
We're
was
talking
trying-
about the 3 roads down in,
The 3 roads down in,
'cause I-
Aldersburg,
the 3 that were there, the one I would be inclined to fund with one-time money would be Narrow Way.
right, that would be number 1.
Actually, the Georgetown Boulevard is probably,
That's the circle,
yeah,
which is most dangerous. Right Narrow Way is by the bridge. I'm going on to 26, Nels Acres and Visiting Angels.
Yeah,
And I've been working with State Highway to no success on getting a better ingress egress. So Red Narrow Way goes along Old Liberty into, I don't know if it's Sunset, whatever it is, or Sunrise, Sunset. Sun what? Sunset. Which would take away any sort of problems for a very senior population. The
right.
Georgetown Boulevard is that hairpin turn by London Fog building.
I drove through that the other day. Yeah, that definitely
It's
needs.
dangerous.
Yeah,
And then-
I've gone
and-
through there
yeah.
quite a bit, yeah.
And then the third one to me is Monroe. Roberta, what do you think? If you were to say those three,
Well, I think Ridenhour is the most pressing in terms of time. The developer is at the planning commission stage and cannot move forward without
Yep.
a proper, because that intersection is failing.
Yep.
They can't move forward, so
Yeah.
their development's stuck.
right now, yeah, and that's Patton Homes. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a priority list, that's the way I would go is Ridenhour, Georgetown, then Monroe.
Well, if we're looking at one to fund right now, I'm saying it's about Brian our way.
Ridenhour over Monroe. I'd say Ridenhour then Georgetown.
Yeah,
And I want
Georgetown
both.
right now and then Monroe.
Ridenhour first,
Oh.
Georgetown, and then Monroe. And the reason is Ridenhour because the developer is building next to Nels Acres right now. It's basically a failed intersection, so he's limited on what he can do. So they need to fix that road before he can build.
Is he putting sidewalks?
You don't want sidewalks there. I mean, I guess maybe on Ridenhour, I don't know.
It's a fallacy of ours in the county has been not requiring them to put sidewalks in when they put a development in. And we go back later.
Yeah, it's really an area that goes to nowhere. I mean, it goes into that neighborhood, but
It keeps you off the road.
Georgetown is the hairpin turn. That's a dangerous, and that would be a roundabout. If we were faster in moving with the hotel, we would have had them doing it, but we're not. So,
What's going on with that hotel?
well, it's still on the books,
Okay.
but it took
What did you just?
forever to say the least.
That
was,
Just
stormwater management.
Friday.
I'm always amazed at how you all can do this, knowing full well that I have difficulty from time to time checking my email.
That was making the assumption we're using one-time funds for Ride.
How much more one-time funds do we have?
4.3. If you do the 5%. help
Right, correct.
or-
So I would put the Georgetown in there with one-time funds.
Well, no, wait a minute now.
I'm not getting too antsy, but that's it.
Wait a minute now.
$1.5 million. So
I'm focused on your gravel roads and broadband.
for half a million.
I mean, there's a little bit of a debate to be had here. I mean,
What's that?
I would entertain that we do the second year of gravels.
And then after this, do the second year gravels.
It's not,
We're changing Georgetown to gravel.
No.
that would slow them down.
You know, there are jurisdictions that are letting paved roads turn back into unpaved roads.
Not
Making that
Georgetown.
choice to save money.
We still
What
have,
kind of comments do you think you would get on?
oh, that'd be classic. And they'd all come from one woman. No comments after that. No, not Roberta. So we still have a 1.8 million unassigned fund balance. And I left that for gravel roads.
I mean, I'm
I mean, it's
happy.
monkey math right now.
Yeah, I'm
but
happy with we're gonna have to come back and change these things anyway.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff is just,
Monkey
you
math.
know, it's just, it's a good, we're at an interesting place right now for thought.
Does Director Castonguay need that $100,000 for some engineering analysis of the waste management facility?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Was
I
that,
I mean, was that a request?
I believe that was for a master plan study for the entire, northern landfill.
yeah, I do remember seeing that.
What do you want? Did he come to us with that request?
He suggested that in order for them to get a broad view of what they need to do at the landfill, they probably have to invest $100,000 in some engineering review. And unless we do that, we're kind of feeling our way through this without knowing what the big scope of what we're trying to bite off is. So I think we do need to allocate that $100,000 to him to commission someone to do a review of it.
I think that was a result of the meeting you had with them, it wasn't coming through the budget request. It came out of, well, if we're going to do these things, we would need to do this.
That's my recollection as well.
Here again, we got a lot of questions we have to answer.
Well, yeah, that's a good question there. And we've got other things too. I mean, I've still got, one of my requests that isn't on here yet. That was $25,000 of recurring to go to the
For,
University of Maryland Shock Trauma.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, we have, it's, although it's shock trauma called out, it's above and beyond shock trauma. There are organizations that we are supporting, and we shouldn't be going through the process of keep asking to support these organizations, whether they're business consortiums or like shock trauma, EAGB, BWI Business Partnership, Fort Meade Alliance. I mean, these are things that we're starting to prove ourselves in, that I think should be
Well,
automatic.
so there's a difference. All those others are part of the commissioner's budget that you
Okay.
listed.
Okay,
The membership fees that we
Yeah,
pay for
yeah.
BWI Alliance, Fort Meade, et cetera.
shock traumas,
Shock trauma is not a group to which we belong
okay.
in the
It's a
same sense.
donation? Is it a donation?
It's a donation.
So who,
The others are
so who
membership.
claims it on their tax forms? No, I'm kidding.
Since we don't pay taxes, we don't get the deduction.
Don't go.
I'm just asking.
I'd still like to see it on there.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I don't see it
And that's
often.
not to say that the next group of commissioners might come in and say, what's that? Take that off of there. But because of, I mean, since 2010, we've had a county representative on the shock trauma board.
Mhm.
So we do have a little bit of a connection there
Mhm.
when it comes to that. So I would ask that we put that in the mix right now. I know it's going to bottom line, but I would like to see that as recurring. Maybe for something, I mean, we'll see what goes. Might get out based on in the end.
Was it 20 or 25?
25.
If you'd have told her 30, she might put it right in there.
Oh, hey, Deb, I think it was it's too late now, isn't it, Deb? You have to chip the F on. Okay.
Dang.
All right.
What's that technology funding at the community college?
Commissioner Frazier had asked to put 1 million of one-time funds or spread it out over 3 years, 350,000. I know it's a little more than a million.
Because of inflation, it'll work out.
So they're asking for $1 million increased technology.
Well, they're gonna use it for get matching donations for health technology. Last budget, or however many years ago, we did almost exactly the same thing for them. They use it very well to their advantage.
What I think they would really like is for us to just start budgeting this in an ongoing way, which we
Yeah.
did at one time.
Right.
And for the school system, the library, and the community college, this goes back a number of years to when we had some strong revenue growth years. And part of what we did back then was create this capital stream of revenue for technology purposes for those three organizations. And when we had tougher times, we backed away from it. And we've done some different things from time to time. One, we had, I think, a 5-year agreement with the community college. I believe it was 350,000 a year we were putting in, as long as they were able to fundraise the match. That's the one fundraising thing that we've done that's actually worked out as it was supposed to. You've given you and other boards have given some technology money to the library from time to time. There's not been any plan or pattern. And am I right, Deb? We haven't specifically budgeted extra money for technology at the school system,
No, we do $1
Next
million
year's.
a year.
but it's out of
Out of-
dedicated money.
Yes.
Boy. We still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I'm trying to look down through my list of
Do you have
notes.
any money left in that one-time money of the,
Couple $100,000. Yeah. 300.
We have $1 million, less than.
I think we'll put 500,000 aside for use in healthcare. I mean,
Well, it's more than 500,000.
I'd like to see if
It's
they
like $1 million.
paying $1 million, it's only 500 difference. I don't know.
I'd like to see if we can put that aside for the college to see if they can leverage the additional money needed for the artificial turf field and their stadium, that kind of thing. And if they can't, they can't. But if they can, it's a starting point.
So go out for a bond bill, for a match on the bond bill?
For however they can match it, however they can get it. They were asking for $2 million. But it's something that will be used by the entire community, not just by them.
Okay, when they're asking for two, whose project is this?
That would be Chief.
Okay. Okay, am I thinking right that they were asking for two from us with the assumption that they would be pursuing other funding
Right.
beyond the two? So when you say drop it to one, you're probably thinking
all
we can get
about-
more money than will be realistic to
not
get.
I would like to see them, I'd like to see them give them the two, to be honest with you. If we have two, I'd give them $2 million
What we do,
to see if they can leverage that.
Well, I wasn't arguing for that, just saying it might not work out the way that you're saying.
I mean, we do because we have the unassigned fund balance.
I'm having a real tough time putting money into something that people are going to run on when we're having the difficulties that we're having here and the challenges with salaries and everything else. I'm against this at this time. I'm just putting it on the record.
I'll agree with you.
I've got there's so many other
Yeah, we have-
priorities, and we've been down this turf field path, and it's a tough one for me.
I think what we need to do.
Plus the fact that I love the fact that there are experts now saying that turf fields are not the thing. It's interesting to me that many of Major League Baseball and National Football League and all those are going back to a form of real grass and getting away from this artificial running on plastic, because it's proven to be very
Well-
dangerous for young people.
I mean, they can determine exactly
Yeah,
what they want to put down there. Doesn't have to be turf
You're
field,
talking about field.
but it's up to them.
Well,
what
they
they wanna do
specifically
with
said
it.
they wanted to put a
But-
turf field.
Well,
in.
there's other products out there to make that field longer lasting. It's not completely turf or it's
Yeah.
a
Turf,
mixed
grass,
in with
whatever.
national
that is-
grass and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm,
That'd be up to them,
yeah.
how they want to develop that.
I'm
I'm not
just-
saying, you
I'm
know,
just having a tough time in the middle of all the challenges we're facing to throwing money at a sports field.
I think what can be done and what we need to continue to look at doing is working with the state on finding where their money lies, because there are one-time money uses at the state for projects like
Recreation.
this. Huh?
For recreation.
For recreation, right. So leveraging that as opposed to
Well,
the money we don't have.
right, that's true, but I mean, if there's some money that we give them, they can use that to leverage. If there's
Sometimes.
some money from the state, possibly.
Yeah,
A few thoughts there. First on getting money from the state. Now, there are some possibilities to get money directly. I don't know if this would qualify, but the state does participate in capital projects at the
Mhm.
community college. Maybe there's money there. Or is there a bond bill that would go toward this?
Yep.
Now, if you're thinking about program open space, if Jeff Daggetts were here, I think he might be saying, well, wait a second, I need that for my capital program. And on the idea of they can choose whether it be artificial turf or grass. I mean, they're specifically asking for artificial turf here. That's what this cost estimate is based on. A grass field would not be as expensive. And when we're talking about the artificial turf, we also need to remember that if we say a field costs $1 million, which might not be the right number, but is in the ballpark, you also have to plan for every 10 years,
Right.
another $500,000
Right.
for renewal of
Right.
that. So, and one of the problems with artificial turf fields for us has been, even if we find the money to put them in, can we afford to keep them?
right.
So, again, that doesn't say where we go from here, but just some things to
Well,
keep in your mind.
I mean, yeah, and I think looking at what the state possibly has and, other opportunities, it's worth looking at. Because I don't, again, take away that requirement, not a wish list, but a requirement that they may have.
Yeah,
Let's just find other
and-
ways.
in a perfect year, I think it's a wonderful idea, but in where we are,
I just, right, I understand, I just brought up.
Yeah,
the money
no, that's
that
fine. I
remaining,
just-
no one
yeah.
said anything else, so I'll bring that up.
and I would entertain, and you are going to find this very interesting, that we not spend all of it. We ought to have a little bit.
Well, right now we have $22 million.
So we put 20-some million aside.
That's good.
So I would look at,
No, I don't want to
I
spend
would
that.
look at a portion of it and recognize it for North Carroll High School space.
Portion of what?
That $1 million, that 950 some odd thousand. Because I don't know what that number is, but let's just do a swag and as a placeholder, put something as a placeholder for the sheriff's space at North Carroll High School.
The problem here is it's still a work in progress, which is why we're getting a briefing on the 15th.
I know, but
So you can just magically pick a figure and go, "Bloop, there it goes."
yeah, pretty much.
Well, I don't think we need to do that. I think we should just hold the line right now and deal with it when we're briefed.
You think we may get it for free?
Nope.
Oh.
But I think significantly less than what we're thinking
Really?
based on some conversation that,
Awesome. Okay,
that we have heard.
Just
That's
put
awesome.
the line item and keep it blank. Forget it.
Well, it's not going to be forgotten. You and I will be
yeah, I'm not gonna forget
on
about it.
the next
I
train.
mean, you can
out
put
wherever.
sheriff space, NCSA.
No, it's not the
NCHS.
best.
Thanks. We'll just leave it. Yeah.
Think
No,
we need
that's
to vote
awesome.
on that.
That happens. Okay, where else do we want to go?
Of that 7 million, Deb, you said we got about $1 million left?
Yes.
That's a good place to be. As far as I'm concerned.
Actually,
What do you think, Ted?
we need to digest this.
You wanted that anything?
Not sure
Not sure what to
how to
think.
answer that.
Okay,
I told him to leave the room when I started.
Any,
the process a couple of
okay, let's do a in conclusion. Any final thoughts before we adjourn for today and the week and come back on Tuesday morning? We have a long ways to go, but these have been two very productive sessions, I believe. Any
This-
final thoughts?
This is much further than I thought we'd be at this time. Going through this, I said you may not think that, but this is further than I thought we'd be. Now we got to go in and make it work, but I think time to adjust this, and Deb, will you send this to us?
Yeah.
And make sure we have it.
Yeah.
Can look over it.
Okay.
I need time to sit back, read it, think about it. Yeah, some Thursday night reading.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm gonna be clear too. I'm, you know, when this option came into my head at 2 a.m., I think it was in everybody's heads
Mhm.
about a method of being
Mhm.
able to do it this way. So.
Well, it wasn't
I
quite at
appreciate-
2 a.m. for me, but yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. That's how I roll. You know, I'll wake up and
Mhm.
I keep Post-it notes and write stuff down because I won't remember in the morning. You know, when you get to be in your mid-40s.
Are you talking about your socks?
Giggling over there?
You talking about,
Giggling?
you're talking about your socks? Do you really use the word giggling? I mean, are you,
He
okay,
has nightmares.
thank goodness you're married for 42 years and there are no givebacks. Or is there any relevant information left or
No, but I
discussion?
just want to, I appreciate the fact that we've had the dialogue that we've had today with this particular option. I think
Yeah.
that it has some merit, even though our Ted's not sold on it, but I believe we are at the place where we just cannot entertain any tax increases at this point, even to the level that we would have to in order to realize some of these ones. So,
Well, I have to say, I did put that out there. If anybody wants, text me, email me, I'd like to hear from the public.
I understand,
They
but
all
I,
can say no. That's
yeah,
all good.
no, I get you. I have no appetite for that right now. Although,
It's after lunch, I understand.
hey, we don't have room for it, nor should we.
yeah, and that's fine. We're going to
Yeah.
hear from folks anyway.
I know.
Right.
But, you know, I gave you the example this afternoon when I talked to a couple folks over lunch and they realized what the ask was
Right.
versus what we would have to do in order
Right.
to make that a realization. And they went, oh, well, wait a minute now.
Right.
So,
Right, there were people out there that thought we were holding them to zero.
yeah,
When Commissioner Wentz said Ted's not sold and then followed that with now's not the time to raise taxes. If people who are listening out there, I just want to make sure it's clear. I have not suggested that we should
no,
raise
no, no, no. I didn't want the one to run into the other, Ted. Let me back up. Yeah. One
So-
didn't lead into the other. They were two separate.
Okay, anything else?
I'd like to just state, I think all this conversation has been great. And it's conveyed to not only the county employees that we have to understand their situation, but like with addressing the tax issues, it's showing that we're having to understand to the public out there that we understand that they've been through a lot of stress. So I'm very impressed with the proceedings so far. And Mr. Zaleski, I hope you have a very good book to read to escape into in the evenings.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, ladies, for all the work you're doing, Debbie and Ted. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn.
I need a second. Seriously?
Dies for failure.
Okay.
Okay, I got a motion second. Okay, Ted, I'm sorry, Eric, I saw you. Let's see. All in favor? Aye, you second, we're adjourned.